And time for us to have the dawn debate. And joining me in studio now is Bella Akinyi, who is NASA Diaspora Coordinator. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you this morning. And just a quick reminder of what we're going to be talking about this morning. And the main thing is IEBC and their preparedness. Remember, we only have 56 days to go before we have the general election on the 8th. And of course, IEBC being one of the main players in this particular year's election and moving forward, what their preparedness levels are. And we'd like to hear what your take is on that. So coming to you, Bella, maybe just to start basically by your thoughts and feeling as to how prepared IEBC is.
Well, I guess I was in one of the other major channels, and that was about a week or so ago, and I indicated that they really were at a 5, if I'm being generous, on a scale of 1 to 10.
A 5?
And that I was being very generous, extremely generous, considering that they still have some of the same players that bungled within their employ, that bungled the last 2 elections. And I would have expected by now that a lot of them would be gone, although I'm trying to see they're trying to clean house. And another reason why I believe that the process needs a little bit more transparency, if I looked at the electoral bodies in other countries, usually even the printing process, it should be very transparent, the serial numbers, meaning that it's not just IEBC that should be witness to that. Witnesses should be there, including NASA, Jubilee, everybody should be seated there so that we ensure that no extra ballots are printed, the serial numbers are very accurate. We don't have access to that, it's one big secret. So these are the areas that are very concerning, that tells me that if they were so prepared, why is the database such a secret? A database should be something that's open, and I know that there's been some kind of audit, but an audit finds all these dead databases, dead million names in there. They should have had an internal audit. You don't need an external audit. So that tells me the incompetence of the people employed there. And at this point, we are literally a few weeks to elections. If we are talking about the incompetence of the internal structures and the lack of transparency of the internal structures, how can we have confidence in them to deliver?
Now, IEBC stands for Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Wouldn't what you're suggesting be tantamount to interference when you have so many players who have to be there?
No.
Is it really an issue of incompetence or an issue of trust? Because one of the things you've brought up is some of the staff possibly who are implicated. But as the law requires, you are innocent until proved guilty.
Okay, first of all, independence doesn't mean that nobody can oversee you or have access to it, because other bodies also do have the title independent when they've had actual, when they usually have it transparent, whereby it doesn't mean everybody has a finger in the pie, just certain experts, but representing everybody's interests. So in this case, it should not be something that's only IEBC and the government machinery that has access to it. So that's basically what I'm saying. In terms of incompetence or lack of trust, it's a combination of both, unfortunately. There's an issue of an element of lack of trust, and you can't blame Kenyans for having that element of lack of trust based on the last couple of elections that they've overseen. So it is normal that we would not trust them now coming into the third time that they are overseeing the elections. And now we're just weeks into it. So there's that element of trust. And there's also the element of incompetence, because when you have 1 million dead bodies turning up into your database, this is a database. Some of us have gone back into the trenches where we entered databases. And if you can't clean up a simple database, that tells us either it is deliberate or it is incompetence. So either way, if it's deliberate, it brings up the element of lack of trust. And if it is incompetence, then that's a concern.
All right. In your opinion, what is the one thing that then should be done to IEBC that would now make them a credible institution that would oversee the election?
Well, at this point, we are literally a few weeks into the elections. It seems we may have to work with what we have, but I believe that there's some things they need to change. That's where some of us come in, and that's why we were very concerned, and we ended up looking at adopt a poll, because we realized there were gaps. And these gaps that we were seeing in IEBC within the electoral system, we decided that we need to be able to fill those gaps by adopt a poll, meaning that we're going to be at the poll. This should be their job to ensure the integrity of the voting system. So adopt a poll means that some of us are coming from diaspora. We're going to sit at the poll. We're going to be there from morning to evening. We are not easily compromised to abandon a poll. And because of this gap that IEBC has left, it's forcing us to fill it. If it was totally filled out, we'd just be observing innocently. But this is now a situation where we have to be all vigilant. We're asking everyone to be vigilant. And we shouldn't have to do that because we don't trust our electoral body. It should be that we are trustingly going into it. So the adopter poll is that gap. So when you're asking what can IEBC do 8 weeks into it, we have to be the watchmen. We have to be the people to keep them honest, so to speak, at this point, because I don't see huge, massive changes. These are changes that could have been done a long time ago.
It would be too late to do that. Now, the NASA principal and presidential lead elected presidential candidate, Raila Odinga, mentioned that the adopter poll is going to continue, and that is not illegal. Maybe just run us through how exactly it's going to run, because he did mention that one of the things that NASA will not do, they do realize they're not going to be the official, they're not going to announce their results. All they're doing is ensuring that what is tallied at the constituency is what appears on the National Tallying Center. Okay.
For one, I believe that, let me go back to, I'll explain adopter poll concept. Basically, IEBC, the way I look at it, they should be ensuring, one, of course, obviously the integrity of the process. But the way we see it right now, the way things are going, IEBC should have already initially ensured that in each and every poll, the returning officers, they are, if all things are equal, the returning officers who are within their employ, their word should be final. Right now, I'm even puzzled that this is something that's good for Kenyans. Why would they be even challenging that in court? That, you know, it's working against the will of the people. It's working against, this is what is good for Kenyans. I would imagine that this is a body that is looking out for us. Now, in adopter poll, we are going to make sure that all of us who are volunteering, first of all, it's a volunteering thing. We are not being paid. Some of us are paying our tickets, coming in from all over the world. Adopter poll concept is actually most diasporans, many organizations from Australia, South Africa, the UK, the US, and many, many organizations like Kenya Patriotic Movement. We've all come together because we're concerned, much as we are not voting, but we have our families and friends who are here. And we are concerned about Kenya, and we want Kenya to really move away from this food security issue. We are talking about food. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we are at food. There's food, clothing, shelter. We are at food. And that is a big concern for us when South Korea is talking about going to space, and they were behind us once upon a time. So when Kenyans are still talking about food, and we have a government that's defending food, we believe that we need to make sure the integrity of the process, if we can make sure that the elections are fair, we are not really worried about the numbers. We're like, are our votes going to count this time? Are we not going to have different registers? I'll give you an example, for instance, myself. I voted the last time, and I was in a small village, Lenya, and then this time I'm transferring to Kisumu. So during the drive in February, I went and made sure my name was there, my name was there, everything was fine, and I requested we transfer it. I was with my brother-in-law. So I saw them entering my name in the database. They said, no problem, now you're transferred from, you know, the village in Lenya to Kisumu. Guess what? Last week, I went to check, a week and a half ago, I went to check, verify. My name is not there in Kisumu. So my brother-in-law from Langata, guess what's going to happen to him? Imagine on the 8th, he's going to vote in Kisumu, and his name is not there. We were together. Will he be making it back to Langata? So my question is, this is just me talking about myself, and we are saying that they're ready. So these are the questions I'm asking. This is me. So how many more people out there? And I saw this individual enter my name in a database. So I'm wondering, what database were you entering? If you're entering it into a database, it should be appearing when I verify. And I've entered databases, so I'm very worried about which register were they entering. So that's entering it into. So my question is, if for us to have that faith and trust, then they should go how other countries with electoral bodies have gone, make it transparent, make it open, so that we have experts in all the one expert in a civil society, one expert representing that, like that, so that we have that confidence in it.
All right, now we have the IEBC firing two of their directors recently in what maybe is to be seen as a cleanup. Is that a step in the right direction, given that they're trying to do what they can, given they also have a time limit? We only have 56 days to go. There's so much that can be done.
At this point, my issue back is transparently firing those people. Maybe it's because they're caught. You know, so for me, you know, my take is that we need to have a system whereby we can actually independently represent independent folks other than the IEBC official and government machinery, the establishment, to be the ones to oversee what's in it. How many registers are in it? Do we have one register? Are we back to what happened in 07 where there were all these 5 registers coming up? And I'm genuinely concerned because where is my name? What register, what database were you entering? Are you entering it into one database? So if it is one database, you know, what's going on? So at this point, firing people, it should have been done a long time ago, but it is what it is, so we have to...
And we have to work with what we have. All right, let's just run through the Dr. Paul concept that NASA is, you know, taking up and how it's going to work. At the constituency level, do you have individuals who are just tallying and making sure that the vote that comes in at the constituency level is what reflects, or how does it work?
Okay, we are going to be all over the place. We already have a lot of people from diaspora on the ground, people all over Nyamira, where we've been doing our work quietly. Groundwork. And remember that we are also a powerful lot. If I'm in the States, you call your mom in whatever county, you tell them this is what's going on, can you check? And they give us feedback. So we're able to get feedback from the ground at a grassroots level, and we are being fed, you know, from families all across the board. Like,
so you have a network.
We have a good network. We've covered all the counties, like Garissa, we've covered every single county. So some of these things, what's happening is that we are trying as much as we can to get folks from diaspora to cover each area. So it's not, we have 44,000 polls. We can't cover 44,000. You know, that's not quite possible. Yeah. But we're going to try as much as we can.
Okay, but what's the procedure? Once the vote tallying comes in, what's the procedure of actually now ensuring that because the fear of some people is the fact that you'll have two powers that are trying to give results. You have the IEBC and you have the NASA polling.
Okay, the way I see it, and this concept is very simple. When polls are announced, when people have voted in this, say Kilimani Primary School, and you've voted, right there are observers, the returning, and we know exactly how many people have voted. The press should have, everyone should have access to it. It shouldn't be a domain of IEBC. You know, maybe I come from an American system where it's announced at the poll, live. You see it. Oh, Kibera, this, whatever, that. And it's seen live. The numbers are not going to some mysterious place, then it's brought out to be announced. So it should not be just a domain of IEBC to have access to the numbers. It should be a public thing. So if they really are transparent, if they really have Kenyans within their interests at heart, why not? Why are they fighting it? So when they fight it like that, that tells us you have something to hide. And they really need to stop trying to fight something that's the will of the people, that's good for the people. This is history in the making. History will judge them harshly for some of the things they're doing. But I suppose some people don't care about history.
So how is it going to be done? What I want to understand is how is NASA planning to do that without necessarily looking like it's creating a different tallying system? Because again, that would be dangerous. It would also be a recipe for disaster. Because I mean, let's face it, not everybody's intentions might be right.
Well, I believe that the returning officer, if the returning officer, we are all observing him, we are all there, we are all witnessing the counting, and they announce it, you know, that is a transparent system. So we are not having a different tallying. We are just announcing what has been announced by officials employed by IEBC. So I don't see the conflict at all.
Okay. Moving on now to those in diaspora who possibly would want to vote. They are Kenyans. It's just that they're living in a different place. How far are we in terms of the extension to which IEBC has opened up to diaspora to vote? Because they would also want to participate.
That would have been great. But given the irregularities even within this country, and given that the proposal of some of these of the voting was going to be done by very partisan establishment officials who are going to be the ones in charge of it, I'm glad that in the United States, for instance, that didn't happen, because you have very partisan officials talking very negatively about any kind of other parties other than, you know, what they represent. So we would not have been confident with the process, maybe next elections, but not this time around.
And when you say they're partisan, we would like to imagine or believe, maybe it's a make-believe world, I don't know, but IEBC is meant to be non-partisan. It should be an organization, a body that is there to literally just protect the credibility of the vote, regardless of where it comes from.
Well, given the given the last two records, definitely they have been partisan. So we are not talking, we are talking about public information.
Based on history, is there no change?
Oh yes, there's always, you know how they always say past presidents, future. You know, you even in credit, somebody gives you credit based on your past performance. People don't change their spots that easily. So an institution has had to have demonstrated in the last year or so that they've completely changed their spots. They haven't demonstrated that. So I cannot imagine if, say, 1 million Kenyans voted or in diaspora, if they are partisan and they made some very partisan decisions, what was to stop them if we don't have a transparent system where we have access to what they're doing? And
would that argument still be the same, say, if NASA won?
Well, if NASA won, I hope, and I'm saying this, if NASA won, I would believe that it is a culmination of a lot of pressure that we are trying to put on IEBC, and also independent. We want people to independently be vigilant. I believe that it would be a combination of that. Otherwise, we would not have people arrogantly saying, take it to the bank. They are not going to win. My question is, why are we taking it to the bank? Is there something you know that we don't? How come you're calling the elections early when it hasn't even happened?
But so, it seems, to be fair, it seems to be happening from both sides. We also have NASA saying they have 10 million votes secured. How confident are they? And how do they know?
Well, it's very different. It's very different when in this scenario, because you're basically looking at real polls, not some fake polls. You're basically looking at actual support, actual numbers. You can actually see in each county based on the support. So you can actually make a rough estimate and get it right. However, we can also look at the other side and make a rough estimate and get a sense of how much they have. So I don't think it's far off when they say it's 10 million. In fact, I think they are underestimating it.
All right, we'll have to wind it up right there because of time. Bella Akinyi, NASA Diaspora Coordinator, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Now, it's just getting to 7 o'clock, and we'll take a short break. When we come back, we've got some news updates coming up for you. Also, the way it is lined up for you right here.